It's a distinct pleasure and a genuine honor to meet the guest of our FPC podcast, His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Czech Republic in Georgia, Mr. Petr Mikiska. It's a pleasure, Mr. Ambassador, to host you here. And let me remind you that our first guest was the Ambassador of the Republic of Poland, Mr. Maszkiewicz. Then our guest speaker was the Ambassador of Hungary, Her Excellency Victoria Horvat. And now I have a privilege to welcome you, sir, here. And velice wam dziękujemy, że je tu pan velvyslanec. Jsme velmi wdzięczni. So the first question, Your Excellency, is the general question and the standard question that we address to our guests. Your Excellency, why V4 matters for the Czech Republic?
Well, Mr. Jurukidze, thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation, for this opportunity to address the audience and people interested in our region, in the Czech Republic, Poland, Slovakia, and Hungary. And it's a beautiful initiative that a little bit contrasts with our past presidency, because this presidency was affected by COVID, and I must say that the second half of the presidency, at least here in Georgia, are rather passive. So thank you very much for retaking the pace and retaking all the means of communication, even in this situation, even in these difficult times. Well, first of all, it's a very good question, but also very difficult, you know. But first of all, let me mention that the Czech Republic considers the Visegrad Group an important and a traditional platform for dialogue and practical and especially result-oriented cooperation in Central Europe. We really cherish the cooperation with our partners, but on the other side, we also see the region a little bit wider. So we think that other regional formats should be developed also, mainly including Germany and Austria, other neighbors, and in certain extent also Slovenia and other partners. To understand our position towards the Visegrad, we must go back to the strategic principles on which the Visegrad cooperation has been established back in early 90s. And the first one was to improve common understanding and cooperation among V4 countries, and the second, to secure our EU and NATO integration, our so-called, and it was very popular slogan at that time, our return to democratic Europe. The common understanding and cooperation between 3 and later 4 member states, 4 post-socialist countries, were and are important, among others, due to historical development, and especially after the First World War. The territorial disputes between Czechoslovakia and Poland, that two countries were fighting for Cieszyn region, Cieszyn in Polish, which was traditionally and historically part of Czech Kingdom, but it was partly and in a very large extent populated by the Polish population, led to a 7 days war, and it was back in 1919. The demarcation of the border of Czechoslovakia with Hungary also led to violent clashes in that area since 1918 and 1920. So these difficult relations marked relations between Czechoslovakia and Poland, and Czechoslovakia and Hungary for the whole interwar period between First and Second World War. Then the communist regimes in all 3 countries, under the pressure of Soviet Union, gave up on territorial claims. But shortly after we gained our democratic values and our democratic independence. The issue and maybe some even animosity and prejudices, both national and nationalistic, appeared again. So it was absolutely necessary to restore the confidence between our countries and to restart our normal cooperation. Fortunately, the new leaderships we had in our countries, and mainly they came from the dissent, political dissent, they knew each other and they understood this necessity. So first the Visegrad Group and 10 years later the International Visegrad Fund were created. And I think it's very important that Visegrad Group could, during those years of its existence, to contribute to better understanding between our nations. The second priority or second principle is our cooperation in the EU and NATO integration. It was absolutely crucial because all countries had to transform their economies. We had to reform all sectors of public life. We had to adopt a new legislative framework necessary for our approximation to Europe. Not all the policies were fully coordinated between our countries, but the region was always seen by our European partners as quite homogeneous, with similar problems and challenges. And their approaches and requirements also to all of us all together were quite natural. So there was also this natural demand from our partners to be united and to stand up together. This European integration, coordination and cooperation lasts until now. The Visegrad Group has no formal structure, but the International Visegrad Fund. But the cooperation is alive and kicking on all levels, from the top political level, presidents, prime ministers, sector ministers, to practical and activities, regions, schools, universities, in science and research, in municipal, local, regional, civil, cultural, educational spheres. Our coordination is crucial also within the EU, that before every meeting of the European Council in any format, there is a V4 coordination session where leaders discuss and secure their mutual support. We are rather small countries, and to be heard in the EU, we need to act together. So if you take Poland, yes, it's a medium-sized country with 40 million inhabitants. It's received quite well. But Czech Republic and Hungary, with 10 million people, are obviously less visible, and Slovakia with 5 million population even less. But together we are 65 plus million people, and it's already reaching middle to big size countries, and obviously our weight is lifted, which is not an uncommon practice in the EU, because you can see also coordination, for example, between the Nordic, Baltic states, Benelux, etc. So the European Union in practice is a conglomerate of different groups, interest groups, and all countries are trying to support, to secure the support of the key players, and which is usually Germany and France. And in our case, this is also a priority, to attract to the V4 activities countries like Germany and Austria. This is something that we will promote, keep going this area in this direction.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the great answer. You have mentioned about International Visegrad Fund. I'd like to inform you that in February we're going to start our second edition of this project, and we will definitely invite the CEO of the International Visegrad Fund. Yes, you have mentioned also about the meaning and importance and the role of V4. And I, as a scholar and researcher of the Visegrad Group, I can say that it is the story of success in coping with different regional challenges and the headaches that European Union may have. And my question, another question, is connected to the main challenges of V4. Your Excellency, what are the main challenges of V4 from the Czech perspective from today?
Well, if you allow me, I would like to combine several questions.
Sure.
And I will illustrate the main challenges and of the EU and regional challenges, combining it with our presidency. The past presidency, as I said, Czechia had last year, since July 2019 until the end of June 2020. Well, with this combination, I think that our approaches towards the challenges will be clearly visible. Well, the motto of our presidency, because we use every presidency has one, to demonstrate and illustrate a little bit their plans, their priorities, aims, and the planned contribution to the common goal, was V4 reliable. Yeah, I missed it. V4 reasonable Europe. This included using a rational, pragmatic, and constructive approach, focusing on European topics and formats, different formats. Development V4 coalition potential. This is what I said before, that we have to coordinate with other actors, projecting our own interests, and mainly on the basis of Central European cooperation, especially again with Germany and Austria. And the last but not least, definitely not priority or area of priorities, was supporting regions in the EU neighborhood, both politically and by sharing our expertise. And I'm talking about Western Balkans and obviously Eastern Partnership. Well, the second part of our presidency was significantly affected by the coronavirus pandemics. And due to the restrictions, some events had to be postponed or organized in a video or teleconference way. But on the other hand, the new situation, the struggle with the pandemic and its impact became the main cross-cutting topic at many meetings, even dedicated to wider problems, and from the top level to the expert level. But well, even with these unfavorable conditions, the Czech presidency was able to keep Visegrad cooperation alive and on the way, thanks to the informal and flexible nature of the mechanism of cooperation, because it's all structured about program. It's all structured around priorities. Our core activity was the formation of V4 positions on current EU policies. Those are the challenges you mentioned. And it was namely the EU multi-annual financial framework for 2021-2027, and the future of the cohesion policy and common agricultural policy. Well, you as a scholar, well informed and well involved in V4 topic, know that our countries are not only friends of cohesion, so-called friends of cohesion. We are net recipients of European funds, aiming at the development and leveling the economic, not only economic development of all EU member states. So it was important for us to work in this direction, as well as common agricultural policy. In some cases, and this is the case for Czechia, the common agricultural policy is harming our agriculture because it's more effective and efficient and profitable to work in agriculture in southern states. It's obvious, but you have to give the population something different, you know. So it's absolutely necessary to be very active in this sphere. With, for example, the EU energy and climate policy, which was another priority in this area, and the role of nuclear energy, it was again our important coordination issue, because you can see a clear tendencies within the EU to set ecological limits, the green energy and the green economy, and the carbon-free economy, not only quotas but also deadlines. But with our energetic mix of our countries, that would be absolutely disastrous. In our case, 34–35% of energy is generated by nuclear power plants. So if we go the way that Germany started of elimination of nuclear energy, well, we would just write off 35% of our generation. It would be absolutely unacceptable for the economy. Well, we have quite high part of the generation based on carbon, on the coal, gas. So elimination of those almost 60%, 54%, again would harm the economy, and the transformation by our perception must be gradual. Yes, we don't question the goals, we support the goals, but the graduation must be in place, and all the economies should be allowed to develop their own approach to this. Other priority was the migration and asylum policy. This is a clear challenge for the whole European Union today, but the Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary and Slovakia have a slightly different approach from, for example, European Commission recommendations and plans. Well, as you know, the original and first suggestion was creating the quota for each member state and practically forcing the member states to stick to those quotas. And the Visegrad group under our presidency could change the perception, and the concept of obligatory quotas was abandoned. And well, as I mentioned already, well, the EU enlargement and European orientation of Eastern Partnership countries were also, as well as our defense cooperation and transatlantic link, were also part of our presidency. Well, if you allow me, I would like to tackle those issues a little bit more in detail. Is it possible?
Sure.
Do we have time enough?
Well, Mr. Ambassador, it's up to you. I know that you have a very busy schedule, so feel free. I know that it is quite hard for you to, give long interview due to very busy agenda. So as you would like, sir. It's up.
Thank you very much. No, but I don't want to present just a monologue, you know.
No. It's very interesting, sir, because you are merging and combining the question that I was going to ask. So this, you're giving me a very general and I would say sophisticated answer. So feel free, sir.
Thank you very much. I already used a word reasonable, and well, reasonable solutions. It was our internal term for tackling the challenges and the priorities. And this first priority, the presidency sought to build on the ideals associated with the 2019 anniversaries, which was 30 years since the fall of communism, 20 years since the accession of Czech Republic, Hungary and Poland to NATO, 15 years since Slovakia's accession to NATO, and all we four countries' accession to the EU. And well, we try to actively and rationally engage in areas where these ideals can inspire proposals benefiting the people across V4 and the whole EU, because obviously we are not pushing only for our interests. We are trying to convince other partners within the EU that our concept is not only our perception, but that would be advantages and beneficial for other member states also. These concerns above all the main cross-cutting topics like deepening of the single market and preservation of four freedoms that we took already as for granted, that we have four freedoms of the single market, but especially within the COVID, they are under danger. Well, again, support to the EU enlargement and to include Western Balkan countries and cooperation in the area of security and defense, which is a very important issue nowadays due to the development of difficult relations, let's say, with external actors. And then there is something that we really cherish, which is the encouragement of people-to-people contacts and civil society, both in V4 countries and the wider neighborhood, which means Western Balkans and Eastern Partnership countries again. And obviously the single market, preservation of freedoms were cross-cutting topic at many meetings from prime ministers and especially ministers of industry, trade, transport, interior, foreign affairs, you name it. And as I said, well, the pandemic really added not a value basically, but especially importance to this coordination. Well, I already mentioned several times Western Balkans.
Eastern Partnership, yes.
And Eastern Partnership, but allow me to stick to Western Balkans, because during the first half of our presidency, the concept and the idea of the accession of some Balkan countries, namely Albania and North Macedonia, was halted because France and some other states, member states, didn't allow to start negotiations on these two countries' accession, despite the European Commission's recommendations. And because of several summits, ministerial meetings with our Balkan partners, and then formulation of our position towards the European Commission and the Council, Commission could prepare a changed, compromised methodology for the accession of those two countries. And finally, in March 2020, there was a consent of all member states on the accession of Albania and Northern Macedonia. So this support was really visible, but we would not be able to do it by ourselves only. Obviously, our consultation, it was a novelty for our Visegrad cooperation. Well, we were inviting partners on expert level and think tanks, for example, from Germany, also from French foreign ministry. So with these consultations, we were trying to secure the position for the future negotiations within the EU. Thankfully and fortunately, we had the support of Commissioner for Neighbourhood and Enlargement, Mr. Várhelyi, in this, and also the High Representative Joseph Borrell. So it was very important for us. The Eastern Partnership, well, also mentioned several times. The Czech Republic was, or considers itself, one of the fathers of Eastern Partnership, recognizing the obvious and very important role of Poland and Sweden in the process. But the Eastern Partnership started in Prague, with the Prague Declaration. So this is for us a very proud moment. And as I said, well, we consider the Eastern Partnership in certain extent our baby also. And it reflects in our position, in our active support to Eastern Partnership countries. We tried during our presidency to organize a meeting of foreign ministers of Eastern Partnership, and inviting also commissioners and High Representative Germany and Slovenia, I think. Croatia presidency was supposed to be there also, but it was supposed to be in April, so it was impossible to organize it in person. But a video conference was organized, and what was very important was not only a contribution of this meeting to the discussion within the EU about the future of the Eastern Partnership, but also which the declaration, the joint declaration from this meeting, served as a confirmation of our position together with Eastern Partnership countries, and had its influence on finally adopted shape of new Eastern Partnership. But it also helped to tackle the pandemic, because well, the V4 foreign ministers could agree on use of part of the funds of International Visegrad Fund, supporting our Eastern partners in their fight against pandemic. And the embassy of our countries in Eastern partner countries were charged with the preparation and implementation of projects supporting our partner societies. So that was a clear success. Our thanks to our Hungarian partners, because as a contact embassy for International Visegrad Fund, the Hungarian embassy was charged with the preparation, coordination of this solidarity fund. So that was very important. And well, the personal meeting of ministers was moved to Polish presidency, and let's hope that it will be even more successful than the video conference held in April. In the area of defense cooperation and security policy, nowadays very important, our presidency sought to build up the V4's position within NATO and the EU, and and to reinforce NATO's cooperation with the EU and with NATO's partner countries. You know that not all members of the EU are members of NATO and vice versa. So the institutional link between those two organizations and member states of both organizations are essential. And so we prepared and led the review of the general strategy document called Long-Term Vision of the Visegrad countries on their defense cooperation. And there is one tangible output, the V4 EU battle group. and the discussion on it and preparation and setting up of the battle group will continue. And it was also important that the defense ministers of V4 countries could agree on coordination on joint acquisitions. They started with joint acquisitions of ammunition, and we hope that this will continue also in larger projects, because, well, we are all tied with our commitment to dedicate 2% of our GDP to defense and security policy. None of our countries is fulfilling this commitment until now, meeting this commitment. So it will be always better to join our limited funds and make the acquisitions wisely and in coordination. Well, the second priority was aiming at technology and innovation, innovative economic and its social impacts also. That under this priority, the presidency and well, you see that, well, with the priorities I am tackling the challenges you were asking about, and so we were aiming at our support of research, development, innovation and innovative business within the V4 region. On efficient and safe use of new technology, both in private and public sectors, and on the support of education, skills, adaptability of people to changes in the labor market, which is very important. We can see huge shifts in the labor market with different orientation of employers, different demand of the employers. So obviously the V4 had to react to this demand also. So as I said, the main topic was the promotion of innovation, investment and trade, as well as innovation in energy sector. I must say, including the energy sector, the nuclear energy sector, which is maybe not considered a big innovation. Because, well, we live with nuclear energy for a couple of decades, a lot of decades already, but still a very safe and ecological way of power generation and source of energy. So, well, we had meetings of all partners, again on political expert level, social partners, and we tried to involve also other partners that only Central European, but the partners that could bring more expertise, like the US, for example, like Israel, Korea also, and again, last but not least, Eastern Partnership. Because again, Eastern Partnership countries are also a source of inspiration and of knowledge in this area. And also for us, it's a chance for exchange, also providing our ideas and our approaches to Eastern Partnership countries. I think that the governance also comes into this area. So again, we had already tradition. And again, Austria, Slovenia were invited. So the impact of this coordination again is wider, and the income of new ideas and new approaches is secured. What was the main topic there? It was digitization of public administration, solutions for ensuring the accessibility to public services, the principles of open government, policy and strategy leadership, and use of innovation in public administration. That's, well, our countries, V4 countries, with mainly our history and bureaucratic approach dating back from Austro-Hungary, can be quite rigid, you know. So it's important for us to focus on this also. And then, well, I already spoke also about our coalition potential, about reconciling approaches. That, well, we can consider it our third priority, and also response to this challenge. As I said, we are small countries, we have to act together, but we also want and tend to overcome dividing lines and contribute to cohesion within the V4 as well as within the Union. So the focus was namely on issues such as the next EU multi-annual financial framework, migration and asylum policy, climate and energy policy, and infrastructure connections. And infrastructure connections, both energy and transport connections, are especially important for our region because I think that we developed well our energy grid, but the transport, the communication, mobility is still underdeveloped. We still need mainly railway connection, high-speed railway connection to fully use our potential. We are in a crossroad of many transport lines, and with not always well-developed infrastructure in this area, we can cause what is already visible last 2 years, that, for example, the transport between the Nordic states, between, let's say, Sweden, Finland, Northern Germany, towards, let's say, Balkans, traditionally passing through the Czech Republic. Now this transport is avoiding Czech Republic because the infrastructure in Germany and Austria is encouraging the cargo companies and expedition company to use the shortest way. And these are the links uniting all our countries, all Visegrad countries. So this is a challenge, and that must be tackled. It's really a huge challenge because it's always a big investment and coordination issue. As I said, all these matters must be discussed basically on the EU level, and we should always adopt the reconciling and rational approach, not bringing just our ideas and force others to support them, but to explain them well, explain what is behind those priorities for us and how it can help and work for the whole European Union, to put together all political and interest groups. And this is not easy. This is a never-ending story, of course, because there are always new challenges, always new problems, and new interest groups, new approaches. So we have to work actively on putting those things together. So again, we were trying to engage with key partners like Germany, again, France, Austria, Benelux. Benelux is very important in this sense. Nordic, Baltic states, again, this is transport corridors again. So it's necessary to bring the political agreement to the expert level, not only to talk about the policies, but also bring it not down, but to practical implementation level. Well, I already mentioned the multi-annual financial framework, and the Pact for Reconstruction. This is the issue. This is something that all member states, EU member states, and obviously all V4 countries are involved and highly interested. And well, we made every effort to coordinate the positions and exchange information, and in a later stage to act jointly. because again, we have to do it. We hosted during our presidency the summit of Friends of Cohesion, which is putting together 17 countries, Friends of Cohesion. And it was, for us, it was one of the largest events after hosted in Prague since our EU presidency back in 2009, because we had many prime ministers and dozens of ministers. In this summit, the practical steps in support of the cohesion and in the presentation of the position of our countries. As I already said, we are net recipients of European funding, but it will not last forever. With the development, one day we will become payers also, and so we have to measure and balance our not only demand but also to our offer in the future. So that was one of the most important moments of our presidency, and the same was for common agricultural policy, which is sometimes also contradicting our environmental objectives. So again, it must be balanced, it must be very wisely coordinated and discussed. Again, with Austria, although we are not always on the same wave and not always our positions are clear, but it's of vital importance to coordinate also with Austria and again with Germany. So there were video conferences with Angela Merkel and Sebastian Kurz during our presidency. I already spoke about the pandemic that affected a large part of our presidency.
You have already almost covered all the topics that I was going to.
I tried to.
Yes. Pleasure. Thank you very much.
The pandemic, it was bad in a sense that obviously it limited our cooperation. It led to closure of borders, already mentioned for freedoms. But on the other side, it gave us also the opportunity to see our cooperation from different angle. We are always saying that we have to see every crisis as an opportunity. It's not easy. But the way how our countries, we four countries, were able to gradually reopen the borders and start normal functioning of our societies, functioning of external trade, of movement, the mobility of the people, it was important. And we can take some lessons from this process and transfer it for other areas also. How flexible we can be if it's needed. So that was really important. And what else should I say?
Well, the Czech presidency has covered all the topics, we can say, Mr. Ambassador. And yes, our conversation is coming to an end, Your Excellency, and let me thank you again. Thank you for being with us and for spending these 45 minutes and sharing with us the issues that are very interesting for not only for my team and also for the academic sector, researchers who focus on the issues of Visegrad 4. Your Excellency, thank you very much for being with us again, and have a fruitful day, and wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much again for the invitation, for this lovely idea. I think it's a reflection of our priorities, because one of our priorities is Eastern Partnership. As I said, we are developing new focuses. We are developing new orientation, new deliverables for Eastern Partnership. The situation, especially with the development in Belarus and the relationship between Armenia and Azerbaijan, forces us to change our approaches a little bit, maybe in detriment to the relations to those countries affected in some extent, but on the other side it also can play a role in our relation with Georgia, with Ukraine, with Moldova. Not that we would refocus from free countries to other free countries, and that will put more emphasis on our cooperation with free mentioned countries, but it will force us to think twice. It will force us to listen better to our partners and reflect their ambitions, their needs, and build our cooperation on this. So thank you very much again for inviting me, and congratulations on wonderful idea.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, sir.
Have a good day. Thank you very much.